So it begins. Hello there, friend. Welcome back to Max Answers Writing Advice Questions. If you are unfamiliar with who I am and what I do, allow me to give you a really quick introduction. My name is Kirin, or just Max. I've been running a writing advice blog for like 4 years now, and 2 years ago I transitioned into a YouTube channel where you're watching this video right now. I do writing advice videos 3 times a week on Tuesday, Sunday, and Friday. Not in that particular order, because that's not the way the calendar works. I also do analysis of storytelling in video games, and my particular brand of humor with my friends every Saturday. If you're watching this right now, it's because you clicked on this video and you want some answers to your writing advice questions for the month of November, also known as National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo. I get tons of questions every year. Every year I get tons of questions. I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I've been doing videos to answer questions for 2 years now. And I decided this time around, I'm gonna group all the questions that I get, because I get too many questions, I can't answer all of them. This time around though, I'm gonna try answering as many of them as possible. Every video for the remainder of this month, I'm going to be gathering questions, rolling the dice, because it wouldn't be fair to just pick the ones that I liked, and I'm going to be answering as many as possible. And if I am unable to answer all the questions that I get, and that I continue to get throughout the month, by the way, if you have writing advice questions, please feel free to leave any and all of them in the comments down below. Why? Because if I don't answer all of them by the end of the month, I will do a huge writing advice answer-a-thon, which I promised that I would do, and it's entirely likely that it's gonna happen because generally, I answer one question per video. I focus on one question per video. For this particular session, since we're dealing with smaller, more focused questions, I'm gonna blast through like 3 to 4 in every particular episode. And there are a lot of questions to get through, a lot of them. So it's entirely likely, if not ultimately possible, that I'm gonna be doing that answer-a-thon. We're talking about like 2 hours of just answering questions, and I'm gonna drop that probably at the end of October. With all that silliness out of the way though, we're gonna be diving right in. What's happening? I've got a table, literally a dice rolling table of questions. Again, I'm not picking favorites, I'm just gonna roll a randomized number generator, and whatever I get is what I answer. I'm gonna be shooting for about 3 to 4 questions per video. Last time I did this last year, I had videos that were like 40 minutes, and let's be entirely honest, your time is precious, so is mine. I'm gonna have like a pseudo soft timer to make sure that I don't ramble for too much, but it should be pretty much, kind of, hopefully, fine. And of course, before we get rolling, of course, allow me to give you the formal disclaimer. As always, a reminder that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the silly ramblings of a person who happens to look precisely like this. So, silliness out of the way, I'm gonna just press the button, generate. Today's lucky number for the first question is number 2. Perfect timing. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to be reading the username because I've been asked in the past to not share the usernames, so I'm just going to be reading the question. I've been working on a video game story concept for about a year now, but recently scrapped all but one character, and was wondering how you go about formulating a concept in general. A really good question! So let me just put in my soft timer, because heaven knows that I can ramble about a question as vast as this. So, you had a story idea, you scrapped elements because reasons, and now you have a character. How do you go moving forward with this? How do you move forward from an idea, a single element, and create it into the concept for a story idea? Now, if you happen to have access to the internet right now, which you probably do because you're watching this video, go to my channel and look up how to plan your novel. I have a 2-video series where I go over my entire planning process. I'm hopefully eventually will revive that video, do it again with better lighting, because my god, I looked terrible back then. But I will go into detail eventually. For now, simple question. How do we go from a single element to a greater concept? So now, for me, this is kind of like a golden opportunity, a perfect scenario. You have a character. Now, for me, I believe that stories come from character. People like to think that plot is the big thing that defines a story, and I don't think so. I think plot is a byproduct of characters making choices and taking action. That's ultimately what stories are about. Characters doing things. Characters seeking something, or battling against something. Being a force of change in the world, or standing as a force of atrophy, or the opposite of change. So what do I recommend? Look at this character, and if you want them to be the focus of your story, I mean, because it could be entirely likely that you like them, but you don't like them enough to be the focus character. If you like them, and if that is the case, look at them, consider who they are as a person, or the elements that excite you the most, and ask yourself, what would be the most fun story I can tell with this? What is the most fun way this character's life could go? And see where that takes you. A lot of people talk about, ask yourself what your character wants. And that's good, and that's actually a really good basis. That's like my second advice for that. But for me, focusing on the fun first and foremost can really take you places, can really keep you writing, 3-5 months in. When you've been writing the story for a long time, you can go back and remind yourself, what was fun? Oh yeah, this element, the very seed, the point from which this story sprung from. I think that can take you places. Again, really quickly, how do I go from one character to a concept? Focus on them, ask yourself, what is the most fun thing I can do with this character? Whether it is they go on a mission to seek whatever makes them happy, or they stand against a force that is threatening to change their life, their world, their entire existence forever. This is just me. This is just the way I feel about things. I prefer stories that are personal. Timer? Listen up, timer. I know the timer is up. I know that I would set a really soft timer, but I need to finish the sentence. I think, to me, my favorite stories are about character. At the core, they're about a character making choices and their personal changes. People think that a story needs to be this epic campaign, and it can be. You can have this grand story that, deals with the fate of the world and the universe and peace and war and all these ideals. Sure. To me, though, I've always enjoyed much more a story that is personal. A story that is a character and not really exactly their life, but their choices, how they go about doing things, and their personal struggles. You can have an epic story set from the point of view of a person who's making the choices. Or the inverse of that, a character who realizes that they are in a world that is changing and their world is about to be shattered. Their perception of the universe may be threatened to never exist like that ever again. And isn't that the way the world works, though? Change comes and changes us. We have control over our lives. We have the ability to choose what we want, who we want to be friends with, and what we want to do in our lives. We do have that choice, even if it may not be the easy one. But let us not forget that the world can be our greatest enemy. The changing time, the changing culture, the change in our social standards can be as great an enemy as an army of orcs threatening to invade your land. So, that's what I think. Focus on that character and tell their story. That went too damn long, but you know what? I like that answer. Next question! Alright, so I'm going to go back to my page with all the questions, roll the dice, and the lucky number today is gonna be 19! Alright, 19, step up to the plate. This is a long question. Do you happen to have any advice on how to write good side/minor characters? What's too much detail / not enough detail? How do I know when and or how to write them off or brush them to the side? And what do I do if I accidentally get attached to them and they turn out to get a lot more detail and an entire backstory? Side characters. Let's talk about side characters. Okay, now I'm about to turn on the timer, but I need to tackle something really quickly. This is kind of like this is one of those issues that is more with concept or values than it is with objective advice. And again, as I always say, this is just my advice on how I feel about things. If you feel differently, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and let's have a conversation, because there is no one answer to everything. Every writer does things differently, and I'm just here sharing with you how I do things. Simple as that. Now, timer on. Okay, so what makes a good minor character? I'm gonna tell you a little secret, okay? Every person is the protagonist of their own story. Every person you meet. Every person, from that teacher you hate, to that lady at the bus station, to that one person that you worked with at that deli who, kind of seemed like a jackass, but maybe they were actually a nice person. Who knows? Everyone is their own protagonist in their story. And I think the difference between, if you ask me how I feel about it, the difference between a main character and a minor character is that the main character is the focus of the story. Simple as that. Can a minor character have too much development? Here's my dealio, okay? Here's how I feel about it. I think that whether, too much, too little, you can't possibly know that when you're writing. I've said this in the past, and I've said it, I'll keep saying it until you all get it. When you're in the middle of writing, when you're in the middle of brainstorming, which is even sillier, thinking about extremes, what is too much, what is too little, doesn't matter. Why? Because the only way to know for certain is to, 1, finish the book, and secondly, share it with other people or read it yourself later when time has passed. The keyword here is time passing. People make the mistake of finishing the book and immediately going into the revision process, which is a terrible idea. Why? Because you've spent weeks, months, years writing a book, and you're literally this close to it. So close to it that you can't even see the details anymore. You need time. Step away from the story and look at it objectively and ask yourself, did I give this minor character too much detail? And the answer may always probably be no. Because at least for me, I love character development, and the only reason why I think character development for a minor character would be too much is only, and if only, it gets in the way of the plot or it diverges the main focus of the story. Like, if we suddenly become focused on this minor character as opposed to our focus character, I do think that it would take away from the story. But even then, the problem is not that you gave too much detail. The problem is that we focused too much on this secondary character. Now, I think that I balled up a bunch a lot of the answer together, so let me just deconstruct it really quickly. Do I happen to have any advice for how to write a good minor character? Write them however they come to you, let them be who they need to be, and then when the revision process comes, cut what you think needs to get cut. Simple as that. I think when you're in the middle of the writing process, or when you're starting, you cannot be questioning these things. You have to go in and just get through that first, have a little bit of time, and then come back and review things. Because you can always change them, you can always fix them. And ironically, you may find out later down the line that you actually kind of maybe got it right the first time. There's no way to know. And if you keep hesitating before taking the first step, you're never gonna complete that journey. Now, as for the rest of the questions here, how do you know when to push them aside? You don't know. The only way to know is through revision and through giving the story a little bit of time. The timer's ticking down, and that freaks me out. Again, write the story. Go in and write it as it comes to you. Write it truthfully and without hesitation. And when the time comes to revise it truthfully and without hesitation. Read it over and ask yourself, hey, should I remove the character from the scene earlier, or did I do it right? Or should I actually have them linger on for longer? These are all questions that you can't answer right now. You can only answer them once the story is complete. And the timer went off, but I feel like I need to finish answering this question. What do I do if I accidentally get attached to a character? There's absolutely nothing wrong with being attached to your characters. I think I talked about this a long time ago in a video, and look it up, Kill Your Darlings. And people think that the writer shouldn't be attached to their characters, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. You can like your characters. I like most of my characters, the ones that behave. That's not true, I love all of them, they're my children. But silliness aside, there's nothing wrong with liking your characters as long as you are fair in the storytelling. And I don't think anybody does this. I don't believe a single writer does this, because, when you're in the act of writing, you tell the story truthfully. That if a point comes when this character would have a really bad change of fortune, that you would not go through that because you like the character too much. I don't think anybody does that. I don't think so, because you're out to tell the story, and your own bias about your character shouldn't get in the way of things. So you can like the character, you can like their backstory, you can like all that you have done about them, but you still have to focus and ask yourself, hey, I like this character, but they're not the focus of this story. They may be the focus of later stories, remember that, but for the time being, you have to just let them play their part in the story and move on with the story that you're writing. Okay, that got out of hand. I'm gonna openly admit that went a little bit longer than I expected, so let's do one more question. Holy crap, I've been recording for a while. Let's do one more question. Let's roll the dice, and the last question for this video is gonna be number 14. Step up, number 14. This is a good question, actually. Do you have advice as to when it's a good time and how to switch character point of view without it feeling awkward? That is a fun question. When is the right time to switch point of view? And how do you do it so it doesn't feel awkward? Now, in reverse, really quickly, and I should turn on my timer before I start talking. In reverse, a really easy way to switch point of view so that your reader is never confused. And I'm gonna just, really quickly, ask yourself what the problem in this situation is, because usually people bring up questions and half the time I don't think they're real problems. They're more a lack of ability to see what's actually going on. See, feeling awkward means nothing. What you're looking for is not confusing the reader, because if you don't confuse the reader, if you're clear, then there's not going to be any problems as to who's actually talking now. Now, the easiest way to solve that, easy and simple, every chapter is a different point of view. Simple as that. Done. And that way, it's really clear, new chapter, probably, most likely, definitely a new point of view. Simple as that. Now, when is a good time to switch points of view? Well, if you're doing every chapter, you got it right there. But if you're not, if you're having points of view jump around in between scenes, I would like to right now stand firm as the one person who's going to tell you this right now. The sort of writer that I am, I want to be honest with you right now. I do not like it when the point of view is changed in the middle of a scene, because it always feels janky and it always confuses me, especially when there's like inner dialogue getting mixed up. That's just like a recipe for just being confused. I recommend to you that whenever you change a point of view, either have a hard chapter jump or chapter break, or have a time skip, or what is known as, the 5 little stars in the middle of the screen to indicate that time has passed or a transition has been made. Just a hard split to let the reader know that there has been a change, whether a jump in time or a change in point of view. I would like to clearly steer you away from changing POVs or points of view in the middle of a scene. That, again, just my personal opinion, my personal experience, that I have never seen that work correctly. And it always confuses me, especially because it tends to be done at dramatic moments, and it's always super confusing. Super confusing because it makes me question the writing and question what is going on. And again, how do you make it so the reader is not confused? Awkward means nothing. How do you not confuse the reader? How do you stay clear and concise? A jump in formatting. A simple formatting thing that lets you know, hey, there has been a change. Either a change in time or a change in perspective. And chapter changes are like the easiest way to do that. And yes, there may be people out there who tell you that's cliched, whatever that means. I think that you have to find what works for your story. If it works, it works. And working is better than not working, last time I checked. So again, really quickly, format, mechanical ways to show your reader that a point of view has changed. A different chapter or a jump in the narration. Those little 5 stars that appear in the middle of the page, or 5 asterisks depending on where you're reading it. It's a perfect way. It tells your reader, hey, this scene has ended or has jumped to another scene or another point in time. And that's about all the time that I have for today's questions. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And if you have your own questions, please, right now is the best time, because there's a little bit of delay between this video going up and the next batch of videos being made. So if you want your questions to be answered ASAP, or to be in the pool of questions that can be answered, leave them in the comments below. And don't worry if I don't get to your question right away in the following videos, because I'm going to do an enormous writing advice answer-a-thon at the end of October, so you have nothing to worry about. But anyhow, I want to thank you for watching, thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.